So, what's probably the best story or memory you have of being an enlisted soldier before you joined the OCS environment?
Um, Man, I got a few here. So there was one time I got a battalion coin for basically bullying a captain. Um, that's like my proudest achievement. I still, well, in OCS I don't carry it around because you're just gonna lose stuff. But
Hmm.
before I came to OCS, I always carried it in my left breast pocket of my uniform, just to remind me, you know, that I am capable of that. And so it was AIT, or not AIT, AT, annual training, the 2 weeks in the summer thing in 2019. I want to say, yeah, it was probably 2019. Um, and we're at Gruber. Um, and you've been to Gruber,
I've
right?
been to Gruber.
You've been to Gruber. So, like the old barracks, you know how they have that patch of gravel, like kind of next to the road,
Hmm.
like that drainage area.
Hmm.
So that AT, we were actually putting all that in. Um, so our job as the survey crew was to help get them like their drainage numbers. So they needed it at a certain angle to get proper drainage in there. So we needed to give them those numbers, and then they were also wanting to do like a ton of projects in that area. They were wanting to put like a giant, like stupidly big, like 100 foot by 100 foot concrete pad out there, or like 200 feet by 200 feet concrete pad, and just
Gosh.
one gigantic propane tank on it. Because the army loves propane for some reason. I don't know why. Like all the buildings at Gruber run on propane. Um, so we're surveying for all that sort of thing, and they wanted it to be really detailed. It's a small area, but we're taking a lot of shots on it. Um, so we're set up out there, and our equipment looks kind of weird. Like it's if you've never seen like a survey gun before or a geodometer, it's like this weird camera looking thing, and it moves on its own, and it's remote controlled sometimes, and it's like leaning forward and all this. It looks like a camera, but it's like bigger.
Hmm.
It's like this big yellow thing, and it's got antennas and all this crazy stuff. And then we've got our targets that this thing will actually lock onto to take its shots. It's a carbon fiber pole with like a giant spear tip on the end, and like this crazy prism looking thing on the other side. And it looks like, we called it the wizard staff. It looks like a sci-fi like wizard spear thing. Like it's crazy. Um, so people always walk up to talk to us about it because they're like, I don't know what that is, and I'm not doing anything. So
What are you doing?
yeah, exactly. And it was to the point, like, that's a common thing for 12 tangos, to the point where like in our training back at Fort Leonard Wood, they actually gave us like a canned phrase for like what you say when like an officer or somebody walks up to you because they don't have anything better to do, like to describe your job, because it's always like, what's your MOS? I'm a 12 tango. What's that? Technical engineer. What's that? Topographical land surveyor. What do you do? AutoCAD design and drafting, topographical land survey, materials testing, and airfield survey. Wow. Didn't
You
understand.
got an important job, don't you, soldier?
Yeah, exactly. And they're like, "Ugh, more than two syllables. I don't know what that means." Um, so
They must be in the infantry.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Actually, this guy was infantry. Um, but So anyway, so we had that can thing, and sure enough, so we're with the headquarters company, battalion headquarters, and battalion headquarters had its own building during that AT. Right next to it was brigade headquarters, um, and so it's easier for them to communicate. And a captain, I didn't know what the rank was at the time, but a captain walked out of brigade, starts walking down the sidewalk, about 100 yards from us or so. He stops, like, right across from us and just stares at us for a little bit. and then moves over to the battalion building, goes inside for about 10 minutes, then comes back out, goes to the exact same spot, stares at us for a couple minutes, and then comes over to talk to us. And that's pretty standard. They usually stare for a little while and, oh my gosh, can I even talk to him? So, I mean, I guess. Um, but anyways, he walks up and you know, that like word for word that canned thing I just said earlier was what my buddy, because we were in pairs to do this job. He was also my team leader actually. He gave that canned phrase, and to this guy's credit, he actually understood more than most people did. Like he understood that we were measuring dirt basically. Um, so he says, well, like they go through that whole song and dance. He's like, oh well, is it all still here? And
Oh.
I took that as a challenge. I was like, well, sir, there's about a 50 square meter patch of earth that we can't find. It's gone. We don't know where it went. We're looking for it. We're hunting it down. We've got some leads, but I don't know. I mean, we'll find it by the end of AT, sir, but I don't know. It's unexplainable. Um, and and he's just staring at me, and I can't tell what expression is on his face. He's just staring at me, and I'm like, I don't know if that joke landed. He might be pissed now. and and I look over at my team leader. And my team leader's like, "Oh crap!" So it's like, look back at the captain, hoping I'm gonna see something better, and he's like, "Keep doing what you're doing." Turns around and walks off. I'm like, "Well, that's ambiguous." I feel like I missed an opportunity there. That could have been a way better joke, and if I'm gonna piss off captain, it may as well be a good joke. Next day rolls around. We're still in that same spot because we hadn't quite finished that area up yet. After a while, guy walks out of brigade headquarters, stops on the sidewalk, stares at us for a little bit, walks over to battalion headquarters. He's in for about 10 minutes, comes back out, goes to the same spot, stares at us for another couple minutes, and then starts walking over. And I was like, that's the same guy. Oh, he is mad, isn't he? Why would he come back? You know? And but he comes over, and I'm just waiting to face the music. But he comes over, and the exact same canned phrase of like, "What's your MOS? What do you do?" That sort of thing I said earlier happened again, like word for word. My team leader, like they had the exact same conversation as yesterday. Same guy, same conversation, same word, like word for word, note for note, bar for bar, exact same thing. And I realized something. You get one redo in life. That is my belief. The universe or God or whatever you believe in gives you one. And the powers that be thought it best to give me that one redo in that moment, that exact moment of my life. And I was not going to screw it up. So he gets to the end and he's like, "So, is it all still here?" And I'd been taking a geology class that semester. And I just start rattling off every vocab word I can remember from this class. And like I'm giving definitions to stuff, like I'm working it in. None of it has to do with Camp Gruber at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm talking about like hot spots. I'm talking about like the shifting of the lithosphere. I'm talking about like all kinds of crazy stuff. I'm talking about some stuff that does actually pertain to Camp Gruber. I'm talking about the clay under the soil and how, it's hard to build roads on that and it shifts all the time. And I'm talking about how the polarity of the earth is set to change, to flip here soon. And, like the magnetic north in Canada and blah, blah, blah. Like all this crazy stuff just back to back to back for like 5 minutes straight. And I was like, and as I feel myself running out of stuff to say, I start wrapping it up and I'm like, but sir, we're on the job, we've got it under control, I think we're going to be okay, we're going to have this done by the end of AT. And the entire time I was talking to this guy, his eyes are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and he's like expressionless though. So like I can't tell if he's like scared or surprised or like even more mad now. I look over at my team leader, and his eyes have also gotten big, but he's scared. And and he's just like this captain. I look back at him, and he's just like, I just want you to know, I'm not an engineer officer. I'm an infantry officer. I just got assigned to this brigade. I don't really know a whole lot about what you guys do. I don't really understand a lot about what you guys do. But you were doing God's work out here. I just want you to know, like, stuff like this is stuff I talk to people about. And I report directly to your battalion commander. She will be hearing about this. And then he turns around and walks off. And I was like, that is very ambiguous. He seemed happy, and then he seemed mad, and then he seemed happy, but he's talking to my lieutenant colonel. And I kind of want to know, like, where we're at. I'm like, oh, well, because at that point, it was June or July, and I was getting out of the Army in December. Because I wasn't planning on extending at that point. So I was like, whatever. I'm going to go out on a high note. I turn and look at my team leader, and he is like ashen. Like he is about to fall over. Like he's about to pass out. He is so scared. I was like, what? He's like, dude, you just basically like talk smack on a captain for a little bit. Like you insulted his intelligence for like 5 minutes straight. Because he understood everything I said. The captain just didn't, or we assumed didn't. So he's scared because now that guy's going to go talk to our battalion commander, and he's responsible for me. So that means he's going to get chewed up. I was like, forgot about that whole Army thing. I'm sorry, man. That wasn't I didn't want you to be, caught in the crossfire. I'll take the blame for everything. I'm getting out. I don't even care if they kick me out. It's whatever. He's like, no, that's not how the Army works. And I'm like, I'll make it work. I had no way of backing that promise, but, I was like, you'll be fine. Like 3 days go by and we don't hear nothing. And we're starting to pack up because AT's about over, and we're packing everything up and we're putting it in the trucks and stuff. And I'm focused on that because we got like a bunch of really big heavy boxes and stuff. We got 8-man lift crates and only 3 people to lift them. So we're struggling and we're making sure we've got everything because it's all expensive equipment. And Lieutenant Colonel walks in and looks at the 3 of us carrying that box and is like, you, and you. I want to see all the surveyors in their office now.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I was like, what? Oh no.
It's happening.
Yeah, I was like, ooh, we didn't get away with that one, I guess. So I was like, yes, ma'am. And I'm trying to buy myself a little extra time to like come up with some kind of BS excuse. So I finished loading this box and I'm like taking my time doing it a little bit, and I'm kind of taking my time walking back in. I'm like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I'm going to come up with a plan. And I walk in the door and I'm like, what do I do? I look up and she's staring at me and she's like, Duchan, now. I was like, oop, time's up.
Game's over. Jig's up.
Jig's up. So I'll walk in there and I was like, well, she hasn't specifically said that I did something. So what I'll do is I'll like go to the back ish, that kind of thing where you're not in the last row, but the second to last row. So you blend in more. It's like, I'm going to do that. And maybe this is going to be, I heard somebody in this section did this or something. That's bad. Finger wagging and all that sort of thing. If she doesn't name anybody specifically, I'm good. If she tries to name like my team leader specifically, okay, I'll stand up and, but I am Spartacus. But, but if I can get away with it, I'm going to get away with it. So I walk in and I go to walk past her and go sit down, and she grabs my shoulder and is like, "Nope, you're up here with me." I was like,
Not good.
"This is bad." um, so now I'm like, she's got to explain the situation. So I'm like, all right, I've got 20 seconds. I got to come up with the best excuse of my life in 20 seconds. And I'm sitting there and I'm racking my brain. And I'm like, I don't know how I can spin this. I just bullied this guy. Like, that's it. Like, there's no like, I have nothing. And so I kind of like tune back into what she's saying, and it sounds weirdly positive. Like, it's not chastisement. It sounds like praise. And she's like, survey and design has been doing great work this entire ET, blah 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 blah. Specialist Duke in here was pointed out specifically as an outstanding soldier and an outstanding member of this section. Uh, and Specialist Duke, and I just wanted to congratulate you personally. She goes to shake my hand, and like, there's something weird about the handshake. Like, her hand feels weird. I pull my hand away, and there's a battalion coin sitting in it. For those that don't know, that is like the personal symbol and award of that officer and of that like commander's position. So that is like, hey, I'm a lieutenant colonel. I personally approve of what you just did out there, which is not what should have happened. I was just like, really, ma'am? She's like, you thought you were in trouble, weren't you? Didn't you? I was like, yeah. She just kind of smirked and was like, all right, y'all finish backing up, and left.
Oh my god.
And then my squad leader at that time jumps up and she's like, way to go, Duke, and that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. I was like, no, I do not deserve this. She was like a really like straight laced type of person, like, like it's got to be done by the book type of thing. She's like, what are you talking about? Lieutenant Colonel doesn't just give out battalion coins. You deserve that. Don't sell yourself short, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, no, like, here's the story. And then, I explained it, and she just got so mad.
Yeah.
You couldn't say anything because I got an award for it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how like this is why you got to be careful with dealing with people in the Army, because you have captains or people that go out that don't know. They'll go up and start yelling at somebody for doing something like that. That captain could have gone there and yelled at Duke and done that, and then it would have been foot and mouth syndrome. It's like, I'm supposed to be out here. This is my job. I'm doing this. So it's like the time that we were at, you came to my graduation and you were wearing your cap and you got called out by a sergeant major for not having your top on, but he thought you were a trainee, and he was not. He had, he as soon as he got done yelling at Chad, he saw Chad put his patrol cap on, and then he looked at his arm and saw he had a Thunderbird patch on. He was like, I'm yelling at an active duty enlisted man, not a trainee that so the sergeant major's like, got real apologetic after that. Was like, hey, have a good rest of your weekend, kind of thing, because it is like, they're there to be these enforcers of the discipline and stuff, but then they're like, foot and mouth syndrome strikes again. So you got to be very cautious about how you do it, because you have these headstrong guys who are just ready to just chomp down at the bit, and then it's just, foot and mouth strikes again. So